was an Egyptian, what have you. If, according to them, the Egyptians was white, it would have been a lot more easier for them to definitively say who was who, but they can't do that. And this is one of the reasons why. So the Romanite Jews and the Jews in Poland and the Jews in Germany and Greece or what have you, they was allowed to come together, to practice their religion, to basically flourish, all to be sacrificed later on, plain and simple. So I always think about that episode, was it Going to Germany? It's a Family Guy episode. It's funny as hell when you have Stewie go back in time with Brian to basically, save Mort. And they end up back in, World War II, the beginning of World War II, when the Nazis invaded Poland or what have you. So remember, in that little cartoon, it's just so funny. And they're having a good time. They don't want to leave. And then they realize that, hey, the Nazis are invading. And what does Stewie do? Quickly toss that hat. He just tossed the yarmulke. And after he tossed it, he blended in with the Nazis. They didn't know he was a Jew. And it's giving you a hint there. Even Mort, who was a Jew, he was walking around with a little priest outfit on. And they couldn't tell he was Jewish until, he gave it away. And even when he put on a Nazi uniform, they couldn't tell he was Jewish. It's just little things like that that's giving you those hints, subtle little hints. Walking around clear as day, just blending in with the people. How can you tell? They look the same. And it's crazy when you really start to dig into this stuff, because the Bible is put to you in certain ways where things like this really don't cross a lot of people's mind. You're not really critically thinking when you have somebody expressing the book to you. And then when you try to read it yourself, it's like, a lot of stuff don't make sense. It's done that way to confuse you. But they're giving you their history, plain and simple. They're breaking it down, telling you what happened and what's going to happen. So now, just like we can ask that question, how could they tell them apart? You have to then be smart enough to look at it from the other side. And be, remember, this whole thing is a setup anyway. They know that the people look exactly like them. They know this stuff is, it's bullcrap. So the whole thing with, Nazis and the Germans, as I said, can't really tell them apart. You can't really tell them apart. You go into Germany and look at some of those so-called Jews back then, couldn't tell. They looked white. You just really couldn't tell who was who. So them knowing that, you have to understand, of course, they understood. We got to create these people. We got to have this Holocaust. We got to give validity to these Jews. We got to create this this Israel nation. So they already had a plan ahead of time. Now, many of you probably know about this, the whole book about IBM and the Holocaust. So you had basically in 1880, someone from the U.S. Census Bureau come up with an idea to create these little, electronic cards, so to speak, that will basically collect data on people, store people's data on these cards. So you had in 1910 this whole German licensing company called Die Mag, which is basically an acronym for a much longer German name. But they basically, came up with the system and everything. And you had in April 12, 1933, the German government and IBM basically create this system and, have it out there and have it ready. If you remember IBM, their first factory was built in Germany. So you had this German, at that time, the German Census Bureau basically go out and start documenting these people. Remember, Hitler was all about technology. It was no different. He was about that technology and understanding what was going on. But they, ahead of time, already thought about this and had already began cataloging and documenting these people as Jews. So when the whole attack happened, they already had documentation. They knew who was Jews. They knew who was who already. It was no escape. Now, remember, the rumors was going on. If you read anything about the Holocaust, many of the survivors, them talking about all the warnings, underground warnings and people secretly talking about get out of Poland, get out of Germany, what was going to happen, but nobody would heed the warning. So we know that was going on. But you had, all this information out there. They had collected data. When the raids was happening, they knew where to go. They knew who was who. You had situations where even if you was just a regular person, not practicing the Jewish faith, but your grandma or your great grandparents was Jews, and you was just regular. You wasn't a Jew, you wasn't a Christian, you was an atheist, you was whatever. but you wasn't a Jew going to synagogues and everything like that, or doing anything to where a person could recognize you as a Jew. But they already had documented your grandparents as being Jews, and those people, even though they walking around like, what's going on, they were still caught up. They were still caught, thrown in the concentration camps, because they was the bloodline of these Jewish people who had to be exterminated. It was basically a science experiment. They was a sacrifice. They was created to later be sacrificed. Plain and simple. And we understand this. Even when you go back with 9/11, we know before they even build the Twin Towers, before they were even built, they knew they was going to blow them up. That was a part of the plan. We seen all of the old cartoons. We're talking about cartoons even before in the 50s, before the towers went up, talking about the towers falling. Plain and simple. So they knew when they was building those towers, they were going to later knock them down. The same thing with these people. They knew that these people they let these people in and let them build the economy and do unbelievable great things, and then knock them down, sacrifice them. Holocaust, sacrifice. Plain and simple. That's what it was. That's what happened. So you can get caught up in the Exodus story if you want. You got to understand what this stuff is really talking about. Now, y'all probably thought I was going to go into the book and start reading and talking about this bullshit. Come on. You can read the book. I don't got to read the book for you. You can read it yourself. All of this is giving you history and what happened and what was, to come. And when you start to understand why things are put in the book a certain way, it's not hard to make this stuff out. This is what it was about. Giving validity to these Hebrews, and that's all Exodus is doing. Giving validity, and as we're going to get into more, you'll see what else is in here. But plain and simple, these people were created to be sacrificed. I always said it before, a lot of people get caught up in the book. A lot of people get caught up in the story. And I understand it's just that. They put so much money, so many prominent people, billions, trillions of dollars, whole movie industry, books, everything. So much stuff behind this religion to give validity to it, to pound it home, to sell it. And it's the reason why a lot of people getting caught up. But, you got to understand, one, if in the 20th century, they use IBM, which is a technology company, computer company, if they had to use them to catalog and identify who was Jews, explain to me how they was able to do it, 15th century BCE. How was the Egyptians able to say, that's a Jew, that's a Jew, that's a Jew, so on and so forth? How was this done? Especially if they were supposed to look alike. If you go by, the Europeans' definition, the Egyptians was white and the Hebrews was white, or even the black Hebrew Israelites, the Egyptians was black, the Hebrews was black. Either one you want to go to. How were they able to know who was who? Now, I don't like to go for that whole stupid shit that the Hebrews talking about as far as, Africans look different than African Americans. So 2,000 years ago, before America was established and all this and that, how do we look? We don't know how we looked. I suggest we look the same. And I've been to Africa, and I tell you, some of the brothers there look just like me. So, again, how are they able to tell? So, again, of course, this whole thing, as I said, it's a story for you to get caught up in and lost in the fairy tale and everything like that. The Jedi mind trick, that's what it's about. Wave the hand, and now you just forgot your common sense. But when you start really getting into it, you see exactly what it's talking about and how history fits in when you start reading the book. So now we understand the whole Moses story. Don't really got to go into all that. Y'all seen the movie, y'all read it, y'all know about it. He basically leaves or get cast out or what have you, comes back and tries to free his people and everything like that. We know eventually we get the 10 Commandments and all that. We're going to skip through the 10 Commandments. We're going to skip some of the stuff and just, get into the good stuff. But let's go ahead to Exodus 7. Now, Exodus chapter 7, it says here, "And the Lord said unto Moses, See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet." Think about that. "Thou shalt speak all that I command thee, and Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of his land. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt, and bring forth my armies and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgment. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I stretch forth my hand upon Egypt, and bring out the children of Israel from among them. First of all, why? Why? This is supposed to be God Almighty. Why do this? What is the point of this? And, this is like you as a parent going into your children's room and basically throwing their stuff everywhere, trashing their room, and basically, breaking all their toys just because they won't take out the trash. You telling them, go take out that trash. Every time they try to run out the room to take out the trash, you block the door. You won't let them out. But you keep screaming at them, take out the trash. You're destroying their room. Now you go and kill one of the kids. Leave his body there. The other kids are just in shock. But you still won't let them out to go take out the trash. You are their parents. All you got to do is say to them, hey, take out the trash. They're going to go do it. So in this aspect, you got to look at it. This is God. It's supposed to be God Almighty. Didn't he create everybody, everything? What is the point of this? What is the point of doing this? When you can just go straight to Pharaoh himself. Hey, I created you. I'm a true God. I need you to let these people go. What's going on? Again, this is another instance where we see in the Bible this God being something different from what we have been taught God is, because it doesn't make sense for him to do something like this. This seems like overkill. So you have all the plagues, you have the flies, you have the locusts, you have the frogs, you have the bloody water, you have the firstborn, all these people dying, all this death, destruction, the magic and everything that's supposed to happen with Moses and all that. All of that happened, And remember, as God said, he's supposed to basically, trash Egypt. All that happened for what? All this death and destruction so that the Hebrews could leave. And the Egyptians would later still become a great and mighty nation who still never bowed down to the God of the Jews. Still never served that God. Still had their own traditions, their own everything. So what was the point of all that if the Egyptians was just going to later become stronger than the damn Hebrews? More powerful than ever, more remembered than ever to this day. What is the point? So when you go in and you read that whole thing, what God's supposed to be doing with the Egyptians, you look at real life. What happened? What happened? That's supposed to have happened. We can't find no proof of this. And, all this destruction we can't find no proof of that. But you look at the Egyptians, their legacy is stronger than anybody's. So what was the point of this? So now you would think if all this stuff actually happened with the Egyptians, that the dynasties will be worshiping the God, I should say, of the Hebrew Israelites. All that stuff that happened, there's no way, I don't care who you is, there's no way the people would have ignored, especially the family members of all, the people who had firstborns die. They would worship. I'm following the Jews if that happened. If I'm in Kemet and that happened, plagues and locusts and blood and everything, I'm following the Hebrews wherever they're going. Can I be a Hebrew? I'm trying to be down with y'all, but nothing. Egypt goes on to be great civilization, mighty, defends itself multiple times. Nothing. It was like, what's the purpose of that? What is the point? When you pay attention to the story. So then what is the story really about? And it's, as I said, them trying to give validity to the Hebrews, plain and simple. And at the same time say, the Egyptians were evil, they were terrible, they did, demonic demon things, which is why they are synonymous now. A lot of people who don't know, who are not conscious, put them with, Satan. Or this must have been Satan's people, and the reason why, God had to get them out of there, whatever. It's bullshit, we know. But it's to give validity to them, to make the Egyptians look like they're evil and bad, and to basically keep people from Kemet, plain and simple. Because you read the Bible, you're not from that area. Anybody in America is anywhere in any of these developed countries where a person could go to power or, cause any problem, they don't go to Egypt, especially if you're Christian, which you have Christianity being the dominant religion right now, still close, but they're not going to Egypt to see this stuff. People think it's evil. It's bad. They don't go there. So all of this, and we all being, growing up and being indoctrinated and learning about the Bible. And early we have this story in the beginning. Stay away from Egypt. That's the message you get from the rip. Stay away from Egypt. Egypt is terrible. And that's basically, for the most part, nobody gave it a second thought. But that's what it's about. But the Greeks are basically saying in this book, which they wrote, of course, that, this is what happened. That, the Greeks was living with the ancient Egyptians. They stabbed them in the back, left their ass hanging, plain and simple. That's basically what happened. That's the story it's giving you. Just like in the Bible, how the Greeks get screwed, what the Moses part they see and all this and that, it's the same thing. And we know in real life, the Greeks stabbed the Egyptians in the back, screwed them, plain and simple. And, it's no other people, it's no other way you can get this story if you go rationally. Rationally, we can't find any proof, any validity to any Jews being in Kemet during this time. But we find all the proof in the world of the Hebrews being there and living with them and everything. The only people who could give you such a story would be the Hebrews, would be the Greeks, excuse me. The only people that can give you such a story would be the Greeks. We know the Hebrews was not living there. We know we can't find no proof. We find all the proof in the world of the Greeks. And that's a big deal when you being real critical and trying to put together the pieces. So they screwed them over to basically, take over the territory and to get their people together to basically go out and conquer any Egyptian and African territory that was in North Africa and any area going past Israel and Lebanon or what have you. So that's what it was about. So now when you read here, Exodus 23, it says, beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies and an adversary unto thine adversaries. So